In a massive operation led by President Ibrahim Traoré, 47 trucks, yes 47, full of weapons and military-grade ammunition, were intercepted. The amount and type of weapons seized raised only bigger, darker questions. Who exactly were these arms meant for? And who, from the shadows, was pulling the strings? The story began just 3 nights ago in the Kanchari region, right near Burkina Faso's border with Togo. At midnight, border patrol officers spotted something unusual. A convoy, long, silent, creeping along the borderline where barely anything moves at that hour. The scale of the convoy and its secretive timing triggered suspicion immediately. Captain Traoré, the local border commander, wasted no time. He raised the alarm and passed word up the chain. Intelligence reports soon followed. They claimed the convoy was transporting humanitarian supplies, but something didn't add up. Why would humanitarian aid move under the cover of night? And why would they avoid the main highway, taking back roads instead? When Traoré heard this, he didn't need more convincing. His instincts were sharp. He picked up the line to General Ibrahim Traoré, head of the Special Forces. "General," he said, "intercept that convoy, but act with care. This may not be simple smuggling." The response was swift. Helicopters lifted off. Drones took flight. An ambush was laid. The 47-truck convoy rolled forward, completely unaware of what awaited. At exactly 4 a.m, the road ahead was blocked. The convoy halted. Panic broke out. Some drivers tried to flee, but it was already too late. The net had closed, and every single driver was captured. Then came the real shock. The first truck was opened, and what spilled out from the sacks labeled humanitarian aid made seasoned soldiers freeze. Modern automatic weapons, AK-47s, M16 rifles, hand grenades, rocket launchers, each truck an arsenal. Captain Kabori called in, stunned. "Traoré, Mr. President, you won't believe this. There's enough firepower here to arm a full battalion. This isn't a smuggling ring. Someone's preparing for war inside Burkina Faso," Traoré replied, his voice cold, firm, unwavering. "Secure everything, every bullet, every box, leave nothing, and make the drivers talk. We need names, we need motives." One of them, a man named Jean-Baptiste Compère, was the first to break. He trembled as he spoke. "They told us these were agricultural machinery parts. We were going to take them to a warehouse in Togo. From there, they would be loaded quietly onto a ship under the radar." As the interrogation deepened, the true scale of the operation slowly came to light. Most of the drivers had no idea what they were really transporting, but those who planned the routes, they were professionals, serious ones. Each of the 47 trucks had been assigned a different route. They had departed at separate times over 2 nights, and only joined together near the border, forming a single convoy right before entering Burkina Faso. On the second day of investigation, new and more shocking discoveries emerged. Detailed searches of the trucks revealed attempts to erase serial numbers on the weapons, but the Burkina Faso intelligence unit, using advanced forensics, managed to recover several of those markings. That's when the origin of the weapons raised eyebrows. Some of them came from the civil war in Libya. Some were traced back to past battles in Yemen. Others were brand new, never used, straight from undisclosed factories. The estimated total value? Over 100 million United States dollars. The question burned through the room. Who paid that much money? And why? Traoré immediately convened the National Security Council. The full inventory of the seized weapons was presented. 15,000 AK-47 rifles, 5,000 M16 rifles, 3 million rounds of ammunition, 50,000 hand grenades, 1,500 rocket launchers, 200 anti-aircraft missiles, and 20 tons of high-powered explosives. Defense Minister General Sadou Traoré sat in stunned silence. "You could invade a small country with these," he finally said. "These are not for defense. They were assembled to stage a coup or spark a full-blown civil war. Interior Minister Hosseini Kari followed, clearly shaken. "Mr. President," he said, "if these weapons had been distributed, even partially, our nation would have turned into a bloodbath overnight. Terrorist factions could have waged war for years, or opposition militias could have overthrown the government in one swift strike." Traut stood up, his voice cold but forceful. "Friends, this is no accident. Someone is trying to do to us what they already did to Libya, to Syria, and to Yemen. But this time, we were not asleep. We disrupted their entire plan." At that moment, Intelligence Chief Commandant Oad Drago stepped forward. "Mr. President," he said, "one of the captured drivers has finally started talking. He says the final destination was secret warehouses inside Ouagadougou. From there, the weapons would be distributed across the country." Upon hearing this, Traoré made a swift but firm decision. Begin a large-scale operation. Sweep Ouagadougou. Search every suspicious warehouse. Find out who is waiting for these weapons. And most importantly, track the financiers. At dawn the next day, the operation began. Simultaneous raids were launched across 23 locations in the capital, and in 17 of those warehouses, more weapons were found. The amount, staggering. But even more alarming were the names arrested on site. Former ministers, retired generals, prominent business figures, and shockingly, foreign diplomats. Their only common trait, each one was a vocal opponent of the Traoré administration. But it wasn't until the fourth day that the biggest shock dropped. One of the arrested businessmen, Francois Bongu, agreed to talk. His words landed like a grenade in the chamber. Bonkongu told, trembling, "This plan was made months ago. Foreign powers promised us support. We would overthrow Traoré. A pro-Western government would be installed in its place. The weapons," Bonkongu said, "were brought precisely for that reason." Traoré leaned forward and asked, "Which foreign powers?" Bonkongu hesitated, sweat forming at his brow. But finally he spoke. Meetings were held in Accra. There were participants from Abidjan as well. The instructions came directly from Paris, and final approval was given in Washington. The room fell into a chilling silence. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Every official was in shock. Traoré simply said, "Continue." Bonkongu swallowed and carried on. "The plan," he said, "was detailed and brutal. First, terrorist attacks would be staged. The public would panic. Then, the opposition would rise up in protest. And collaborators inside the military, they would move to execute a coup." Even more horrifying details surfaced. The code name of the plot, Operation Restore Democracy. The total budget, $200 million United States dollars. And the weapons, they were just the beginning. Among the names Bonkongu provided were truly astonishing. Western embassy staff, representatives of global corporations, and even employees from so-called international organizations were all on the list. In response to this shocking information, Traoré made a decision that would go down in history. He called for an emergency press conference. The world, the entire world, had to know what was happening in Africa. They had to see how the continent was being deliberately destabilized. The press conference was broadcast live on national television. Behind Traoré, a towering display of the confiscated weapons was arranged, grim proof of the truth he was about to unveil. The sight of it shocked every viewer, terrified many. It was undeniable. Traoré stepped up to the podium and began, "Dear Burkinabe brothers, and to the world watching, 3 days ago, we intercepted the largest arms smuggling attempt in our nation's history. But this was not just arms smuggling. This was a coordinated conspiracy against our people and our sovereignty." He held up a folder of documents. "Here," he said, "is the proof. 47 trucks of weapons, total value $100 million. Their aim? To destabilize Burkina Faso, to turn brother against brother, to install a puppet regime loyal to outside powers." Traoré raised his voice, sharper now, unforgiving. Where did these weapons come from? I cannot yet reveal every detail, but I will say this. The imperialists still want to control Africa, but they will not succeed, because this time, we are awake. Journalists in the hall began asking questions excitedly. The correspondent from CNN stood up. Which countries are behind these weapons? He asked. Traoré remained composed. The investigation is still ongoing, he replied, but some of the weapons were manufactured in NATO member countries. The BBC correspondent followed quickly. So who are the leaders of this conspiracy? Traoré nodded slowly. 17 individuals have been arrested, he said. Among them are former ministers and retired generals. Informants are talking, and soon all of the truth will be revealed. Then came a question from Al Jazeera. How will this affect regional security in West Africa? Traoré answered without hesitation. This is not an attack only on Burkina Faso, he declared. It is an attack on the entire continent, all of Africa. Similar conspiracies are already in motion, in Mali, in Niger, and in Guinea. We must now act as one. A journalist from the Russian press asked next, Will you be increasing your security measures? Traoré said firmly, Absolutely. Our army is fully on alert. Our borders are under the tightest control, but more importantly, our people, they are with us. The most striking moment of the entire press conference came when one of the detainees' confessions was broadcast live. Francois Bongo appeared on the screen. His face was stained with tears, his voice shaking. They deceived us, he said. They told us we would bring democracy, but in truth, we would have divided our country. Traoré is right, he continued. We became traitors. I apologize, with all my heart, to my people. When the video ended, a heavy silence filled the hall. Traoré continued speaking. Here is the real face, he said. These people, they were selling their homeland for money. But they failed, and let me tell you this, they will continue to fail. While the press conference was still going on, outside, something remarkable was unfolding. Thousands had gathered in the streets to support Traoré. Banners were held high. Slogans were being chanted. Long life Traoré. Down with imperialism. Traoré came out and addressed the people directly. My dear citizens, he said, thanks to your strength and your unwavering support, we stopped this conspiracy. Thanks to your vigilance, Burkina Faso stands safe and proud. As long as we remain united, no enemy can defeat us. Young people lit torches and marched together. Women sang the national anthem. The elderly prayed under the open sky. God protect Traoré. Protect our country. Meanwhile, messages of solidarity poured in from across the African continent. Mali's leader, Ibrahim Traoré said, Brother Traoré is the true guardian of Africa. We too are tightening our borders. Leader Chiani said, This conspiracy is against all of us. It is time we share intelligence. Africa must take charge of her own security. Guinea's leader, Doumbouya, declared, There is no place for arms barons in Africa. Traoré's courage should be an example to all of us. Sagal leader Bassirou Diomaye sent a message of solidarity. As the African Union, we must urgently tighten the arms embargo. Our continent is not a weapons depot. Even Chad's leader, Mohamed DB, voiced his support. We must act together, he said, in the fight against terrorism. These weapons, they could have ended up in the hands of extremists. From Uganda, Museveni stated, My young brother TR did a great job. Africa can, and must, ensure its own security. From South Africa, Ramaphosa added, This event should serve as a lesson for every African nation. Arms smugglers, and those who sponsor them, must be exposed and punished. On the fifth day of the operation, new developments surfaced. Documents recovered from seized computers revealed just how far the conspiracy reached. It wasn't just about Burkina Faso. The entire Sahel region was targeted. The files held shocking detail. There was a separate plan for each country. In Burkina Faso, it was Traoré. In Mali, Keita. In Niger, Chiani. Each leader would be removed, each government replaced with pro-Western puppets. Then came the bombshell, the financial dimension, the total budget. $1 billion United States dollars. Investigators were already tracing the source. Some funds pointed towards Gulf countries, others towards Europe. How do you think Africa should respond to conspiracies funded from abroad? Leave a comment Amen if you support Traoré's courage, vision, and defense of a sovereign Africa. Traoré quickly held a second press conference, but this time, his tone had changed. It was sharper, fiercer. The masks have fallen, he said. Those who wish to recolonize Africa should understand one thing. We are the grandchildren of Thomas Sankara. We will not kneel. He held up the new documents. They were even more striking than before. Inside was a full list of the government that would have been installed after the planned coup. Ministers had already been selected. Tasks had been divided. Even the very first executive actions had been drafted. Traoré slammed the folder shut. Look how brazen they are, he said. They divided ministries before even overthrowing us. But they forgot one thing. The people of Burkina Faso are the rightful owners of these lands. Among the newly arrested were also foreign nationals. 3 French, 2 British, 1 American. And interestingly, 2 Israelis. All of them held diplomatic passports. But they were not diplomats. Their interrogation created an immediate international crisis. The governments involved demanded the release of their citizens, but Traoré refused. Having a diplomatic passport does not give you freedom to commit crimes, he said coldly. On the 6th day, the court process officially began. The detainees were brought before the judge. The charges were severe: attempting to overthrow the state, establishing a terrorist organization, arms smuggling, and even treason. The courtroom was packed. Citizens had come to witness justice. The defendants looked broken. Some cried, some expressed regret. But it was too late. The prosecutor stood. He began to read the indictment. The evidence was overwhelming, so overwhelming that even the defense lawyers struggled to respond. Audio recordings, video footage, bank transfer receipts, signed confessions, they filled the case file. Meanwhile, international pressure mounted. Several Western countries threatened Burkina Faso with economic sanctions, but Traoré stood firm. History will judge those who threaten us, he said. Then came words of support from Russia.